Game 3 of the NBA Finals came down to the final 3 minutes and 27 seconds in the fourth quarter. Luka fouls out. The Mavericks go on a 22-2 run to that point. And now, for the Boston Celtics, a team that a lot of people have questioned all postseason about the road to the finals, or they battle tested, all this other stuff, it comes down to a moment where they give up a massive run to a Dallas Mavericks team on the road. And it comes down to critical execution where it's a one-possession game. Here's how the Boston Celtics respond.
Shot clock at 9. Irving, pull up, jump shot. It's good! 1-point game. 6 of it, 24. Tatum the drive, sidestep. Shot is up, won't go. The follow by Brown. Another big play from Jaylen Brown. Drew Holiday on the drive, kicks it back out. White puts up a 3. Bang! Derek White from downtown. Pass inside to Tatum. Tatum double team, gets inside and throws it down. Jason Tatum using his strength in the lead back up to 6. Irving inside, Lively all alone, throws it down. 2-point game once again. Brown using the screen. Drives, pulls up, jump shot, puts it in. Jaylen Brown now with 30. Dallas down 4. Irving now guarded by Horford. Irving puts up a 3. Won't go. Brown tips it. And White fouled by P.J. Washington with 22 seconds remaining.
That is how Boston is able to keep composure and still win game 3 at the end of it. I understand there was no Luka in this game, but there's a lot to talk about, including his performance. But you have to give the Celtics a lot of credit again. Going on the road where you have given up leads in the past before, where you have not executed like you needed to in every single game. For you to do it at the biggest level, to go up 3-0, no Porzingis, all of that is very, very impressive, and they deserve a ton of credit. It shows you how good they are as a team, how well coached they are, and how impactful Jaylen Brown and his growth as a player has been. And we'll get to all of that in this video, but that is officially how they close out the Mavericks in Game 3. As we know, taking a 3-0 lead in the finals pretty much means you're going to win. No team has ever come back from 3-0 in the playoffs and in the finals. It just hasn't happened. This series is pretty much over. Porzingis has an injury, which does impact the series, but Boston showed in this game that they can still beat them without Porzingis. You saw Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown finally both have a 30-point performance to beat the Dallas Mavericks. And there's a lot to address in terms of what we were saying before the series and all this, but the biggest takeaway has to be Boston's just a better team. And I said this coming in. I said that for the Mavericks to beat the Celtics, Kyrie and Luka would have to perform at a higher level and outperform them in crunch time. And to be honest, we just haven't seen it. Game 1, complete blowout. What Jaylen Brown did at the end of the third quarter basically cemented that blowout, right? Game 2, closer game. Kyrie still doesn't have a shot within him. They still close him out. And then in Game 3, Luka fouls out, which he looked terrible defensively the entire game. Luka looked god-awful defensively, and a lot of it is because the way Boston is going, they're relentless. Guys are getting to the basket. They're putting him in action. They're going at Luka Doncic repeatedly. That's why his defense looks so bad beyond his actual effort on the court defensively. And now, what you saw in this game, too, is their defense and their conversion, right? Where Tatum misses that off-balance leaner, but Jaylen Brown comes in to rebound the ball. Like, they just have a lot of size, length, and the effort level on defense. They don't have a weak link defensively. What I've seen from Al Horford is he's turned the clock back. He's realizing, hey, I have the 3rd most NBA games played in the postseason of any player, period, with no title. I want a title. And what you're seeing Al do, whenever they hunt him on these switches, he's not playing bad. He's playing very good, productive basketball for them. So you have an entire unit that's composed, that is focused, where Joe Mazzulla is literally playing them UFC fights to show them, hey, even if you're up, you can still lose. They're locked in, and they're not settling. Like they're very focused on the defensive end. Jason Tatum, The shot making, we got to talk about it. 1 for 5 in the fourth quarter. Jaylen Brown scores 9 points. Jaylen Brown's outperformed Jason Tatum. But that's the beauty of this team, man. I was trying to tell y'all for the entire year, Boston is built like a unit where, okay, Tatum has an off game. Porzingis can pick him up. Porzingis has an off game. Jaylen Brown, like they have legitimately 4 players, maybe even 5 some nights, where one of those players can perform like your best player and you look good. Drew Holiday just had 30 last game, where Tatum and Brown were not productive at scoring the ball like they were in this game. Drew Holiday carried them there. And then defensively, they're all locked in, where Luka is hunting a switch on Derek White. Derek White, for Luka Doncic, might be the weakest defender for him. And it's Derek White, who's like an all-defense guy. That is the depth of what the Boston Celtics are able to do. And they deserve a lot of credit. I picked Boston in the series. Y'all know that. I had Boston win the series. But because I didn't know about Kristaps' availability, I wasn't sure if he was going to be able to play heavy minutes, if he was going to be able to have the impact that he did off of the injury. I thought that's what was going to dictate the series. And partially, I was fair to think that. Kristaps had a crazy game 1. Game 2, he was also very solid in his minutes, and then he hasn't played since that point. So I was right to think that. But what Boston did, again, I said this in the first 2 games, what is the adjustment going to be when they take away the corner 3 and they take away the lob? And for Dallas, it's made their offense untenable. Dallas has yet to score 100 points in the series. The series. 3 games straight, they have not scored 100 points because of what Boston is doing defensively. Because of how Boston's turning their defense into offense. Because they're losing the math battle. Which, again, this goes back to last year where it was the Denver Nuggets versus the Suns, right? I kept saying, hey, the reason why the Suns are losing against Denver is out-rebounding you. Denver is putting up more threes. And you're not taking enough threes to compete. And Boston, every game, they're getting up 35 threes, 40 threes, 45 threes, and they're hitting. Even in the game where they didn't hit, the math battle is just going to be too much for you to beat them on, especially if you have multiple players who are giving you great rebounds, who are touching the paint, who are kicking to other shooters. You're seeing that in Boston routinely throughout the series, and that's why Boston is up in this series, because of that effort on both ends of the ball. They just look like the better team. That's really what it comes down to. And in terms of Finals MVP, obviously, after last night, it looks like Jaylen Brown. I mean, I got to be honest. I don't like to lie on my basketball takes. Jaylen Brown is a guy that I criticize, and I'm not walking it back. He deserved to be criticized for that Miami series. He deserved to be criticized for how weak he looked on the ball, for the sloppy turnovers, for how he would attack without a purpose sometimes. And he stripped away all of that. Coming into this season, if you watch Celtics basketball, Kristaps looked like the second best player on the team for a pretty big stretch. And then Jaylen Brown figured it out. Post All-Star break, became their best POA defender, was a lot more purposeful with the ball, was a great defensive player for he just completely turned around his whole fortune. And when you have him playing at that level, it takes Boston to a whole other level. The fact that in the second half, Brown can score 24 points on like 10 for 16 shooting, you have to respect that. That is a weapon for the Boston Celtics. And it just speaks to, again, the variance of their players, where Tatum and Brown and Drew can give you 30 points in the game. Derek White can hit 6 to 7 threes, and they're all going to play defense. You know, on a night-to-night basis, regardless of who's scoring high, who's not scoring, they're all going to contribute on the defensive side of the basketball. And that is the identity that I kept saying for Jaylen Brown would have to come back for Boston to win a title. I said it in the podcast with B Souls before the season started. I literally said, this comes down to Jaylen Brown getting back to what we know he can get to defensively for them to win. And he's done that. So Finals MVP is probably going to him. But after the series is over, I will have a video addressing the real Finals MVP to me. It's not this video. This is just a regular Game 3 recap. But that stuff is coming up because we do have to zoom out and really take an in-depth look at Boston. But overall, great win for the Celtics. Great fight. Great effort. Dallas is in the mud. We will get to those Luka defense conversations and Kyrie Irving as a second option. We'll get to all those things. But ultimately, Dallas still beat every team they had to in the West. They did what they needed to do. But they're outclassed, and Boston looks like the better team. But y'all have a good one. I had a great time watching this game towards the tail end. We'll see what happens in game 4. Peace out. Y'all have a good one.